Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast. Hello, everybody. It's Jason Beckerman filling in for Charlie Cotton, joined by Eric Colley. We got some interesting stories today. We're going to talk about Taylor Swift's, there's been some AI photos of her, purportedly nude. Obviously, they're just made up artistic renderings of her made by AI that have been going around the internet, sort of bespeaking the brave new world that we're entering.
Yeah. And another Taylor story, too. It's a bad week for her.
It is a bad week for her.
Through no fault of her own.
And then Alec Baldwin talking about he wants to get to trial as quickly as possible to deal with the involuntary manslaughter charges that have been leveled against him more recently in New Mexico. And finally, Whoopi Goldberg, a bit of a hot take on the whole Barbie snub controversy.
So much for girl power.
Right.
Right.
But let's start off. A quick note. We just put up on the website, TMZ.com, we just put up that adult film star Jessie Jane, who was really big in the early 2000s, has died at 43 after an apparent overdose. She was found with her boyfriend after a welfare check.
Yeah, so it was his employer had not heard from him in a few days, and so they sent somebody out to be like, hey, is he okay? They actually found both of them together, had died. Apparently it was an overdose. We don't know what yet. The details are still just coming out on that. But really sad. You know, she had a kid, only 43 years old, and she had gotten some mainstream success. I think she was a name beyond just
the
adult film world. It's sort of the cautionary tale, I think, of adult films. And sometimes people think they're against it because of being prudish or whatever. Right. Yeah, there's a whole dark, seedy side to that world. There's a lot of these kind of tragic stories. So very sad.
I think as we've seen sort of the greater acceptance of the lifestyle, and some people really recoil at that, but at the same time, it allows people to live sort of a more sort of to the point about it being the seedy side. I think that's something that might be ending slowly because it is becoming mainstream. Hopefully, it is.
The stories of abuse and drug addiction and all those things. In this era of OnlyFans and all those kinds of things, you're seeing a lot of people, particularly women, sort of taking control of it themselves.
You're democratizing it. You're giving power to the women, which they never had, right? Especially back in the 70s and 80s and before that, it was a male-dominated thing that you mentioned the word abuse. It wasn't just the physical abuse. It was obviously the workplace abuse, the emotional abuse, and those sorts of things are ending. But in any event, you're right. She's a cautionary tale for a really, she struggled with substance abuse much of her life, and to have it end this way at 43, she has a young child. It's heartbreaking for her and for her boyfriend. Brett Hassemuller is his name. Moving on to Taylor Swift. Eric, to me, this is sort of everything we might fear about AI coming to reality. Some photos of her were published online purporting to be nudes of her. They were just AI generated.
Right. It's just fake photos. And AI is getting really good. People are like thinking these are real. Obviously, they are not. And Taylor's fans are like flooding to her defense. They're putting the hashtag Protect Taylor Swift on X, and they should honestly. This is definitely one time I'm 100% on Taylor's side. She has not addressed this at all. She doesn't need to. I can't imagine she even will. But it's kind of scary and gross.
It is. It's scary and gross, and it's really, and there's another side to it as well. So Donald Trump, there were some photos that came out of him at a rally, looking like really orange and with apparent tanning stuff dripping down his face. And the photos came out, it's sort of just, I don't know, gawking. And he came out and said, AI generated, not me. And we have no idea.
You have no idea.
Not that it really matters, but we have no idea if it's true or not.
This is the new, the thing for celebrities in recent years. I was hacked.
Yes.
That was always the excuse.
Right.
And sometimes it was actually true.
Yes.
Sometimes people posted a thing and then were just like, I was hacked.
Yeah.
Anybody can put their nudes out now.
If the Access Hollywood audio leaked right now, Donald Trump's response, and any politician's response, I'm not meaning to pick on him, would be, not me. It's an AI voice generation of me. Those tapes aren't real.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do? How are we going to start distinguishing between fact and fiction? It's going to get more and more difficult. The technology is going to have to evolve to try and do that, but we know that the
better AI gets, the more realistic it gets. The more, a lot of people, I think, you want to think, well, I'm not going to fall for that. I'm too smart to fall for that fake stuff. It's getting to where you don't know anymore.
I'm under no such illusion that I won't fall for that stuff.
I mean, this one I know, obviously, like these photos of Taylor Swift, those are not real.
Right. They're not even really suggested to be real. They're more put out there as sort of.
They look like it looks like a porn set more than like just a dirty picture on her phone or something. But yeah, this is and actually, a lot of porn is it can be on X.
Yeah.
You can show all kinds of stuff on there. But they actually are getting these accounts shut down because this isn't about the AI nudity or suggestiveness of it. It's a complete violation of her.
And there's some real, just to close the loop, there's some real legal risk for X in this, right? These are clearly defamatory to put something up claiming it's real about somebody when it's not. X is, once they're alerted to this, they have an obligation to remove it from their platform. And so, they're stepping up.
Back to what you were saying, the scary thing of that, yes, they should remove all this because it's not real. But if any politician has some embarrassing, awful moment and it starts trending, did they go to X and say, that's not real, it's defamatory, take it off?
Right, and that puts the platforms, not just X, but the other platforms in a very, very difficult position.
Is it real or not?
Right, and Elon Musk has been free speech, and, free speech ends where defamation begins, but if you don't know where the line is between what's true and it's not, it's impossible to make those calls.
Yeah. Also, real quick for Taylor, again, her terrible, horrible, no good, very bad week. Her stalker was arrested a third time in less than a week, 2 hours after being in court for appearing for stalking her.
Yeah, it's a guy named David Crow. He's been following around for some time. This is a scary dude. I guess it comes with the territory of great fame, as sad as it is. We've seen the Kardashians suffer under this for a long time, the Kardashian Jenners, and she's really suffering from this guy. So he returns to her place, as you mentioned, 2 hours after appearing in court, prompting a 911 call from someone in the neighborhood. He's arrested on criminal contempt charges. Now, he'll go to jail for some time, but stalking cases, even felony stalking cases, you're not talking about years in jail. The idea is that the restraining orders should be enough to keep him away, and he's going to have to be arrested probably additional times, as sad as it is.
At a point because the thing is, he hasn't done anything threatening to her specifically.
Right.
So there's really not a whole lot.
His presence is threatening enough.
His presence is, but he's not, he hasn't shown up with guns or weapons or anything like that. So other than restraining order, there's not a whole lot she can do, just that if he just keeps coming to her property. Is there a point, is there like a rule, like so many times you can violate it before they can do something more?
Yeah. I mean, if he shows up again and again, the sanction will get greater and greater. The courts have the ability to sanction someone to the extent necessary to protect the individual. But to your point, he hasn't brought a gun. He hasn't threatened her with death. He hasn't he claimed, you're my lover and I need to have you. None of that stuff has really emerged. And so you're really, to deprive somebody in this country, for better or for worse, to deprive them of their liberties, you really have to show there's an imminent danger, and they haven't shown that. But the more times he shows up, that imminent danger is going to be found. But you're never going to get a 12-year sentence. You're going to get these piecemeal sentences until he does something.
And I understand it, but it's the scary thing with these stalker things is they can't do anything really severely, legally against him until he does something.
That's right.
But by then it's too late.
That's right.
I don't know what you do.
That's right.
You can't lock somebody up for life for intent, I guess.
That's right. He'd have to trespass onto the property, something like that, and then we start getting into.
But if you're out of court for
2
trespassing
hours,
and 2 hours later you couldn't help yourself,
you got a problem.
That's very frightening.
You got a problem, and I would think that Taylor Swift is obviously well secured, but anybody can be gotten to, and I've got to think that it really causes her pause when she's going out into public, even being at home. She's got at home, I feel she probably feels secure. She's probably got the team of security guards around her. This is not a high level criminal. This is just some guy who has a delirious fantasies about him and Taylor being together, whatever it is. But when she goes out in public to restaurants, she's got a squad. She's not that protected.
And we know she's in New York where he is.
That's right.
Because she's gone out to dinner in New York. So she's there. He's there. It's a scary situation for her.
I mean, look, it's the downside of celebrity, right? Is that people know where you are. People believe, for whatever reason, that they have this relationship with you. They concoct it in their mind, and they look to act out on it by showing up at your house and wanting to do things with you.
Well, hopefully the third arrest is the charm and he gets the hint. I mean, that's probably not.
This is not a rational actor.
When you can't go 2 hours without showing back up again, probably not. But
there's this whole thing in the law about you always assume you're dealing with a rational actor. This is not a rational actor.
Clearly not.
Right. This is not going to be the kind of guy who's going to be deterred by some silly judge who doesn't really know the depth of his love and things like that. So scary stuff. Somebody else that's in some hot legal water is Alec Baldwin. Of course, Alec Baldwin has been indicted, charged dismissed, indicted again now on involuntary manslaughter charges stemming from the Rust shooting in New Mexico. The actor has been ordered to appear before a judge in New Mexico to answer to the involuntary manslaughter charge on February 1st. He's going to enter an official plea. He says he wants to go as quickly as possible in this.
Right. He wants the old speedy trial because he wants to get this done and put it behind him. He'll have to enter his plea, pretty sure it's going to be not guilty,
Right.
as he's said all along. He wants it to minimize public vilification and suspicion.
Yeah.
But the longer this lingers, the more bad press, basically, and the more awful things people think about him. He wants to move on. I want to ask, I know it's not double jeopardy because he hasn't already been cleared on it, but the DA in New Mexico already brought these charges, dropped them, and now is doing it again. Can they just do that forever?
Well,
drop and recharge?
Theoretically, a judge won't allow it to happen very often, and they'll kick it. Double jeopardy doesn't attach to the point you're making. Doesn't attach until there's been a judgment in the first situation, so an innocent, a not guilty verdict would then attach. But
so obviously legally they can, but it just seems like if you're being charged with something and the DA drops it for whatever reason, you think you're done.
So in this situation, it seems a little wonky, but you can imagine a situation where somebody is charged, there's not enough evidence for a murder charge, and then some DNA comes out 6 months later or 6 years later. You want the ability to recharge based on the new evidence, and that's what that's what you would have to show to a judge about why you're recharging in order to get the right to do that. So here, the New Mexico DA, for whatever reason, believes that there's now sufficient evidence because they dismissed initially because of lack of evidence. They now feel that they have sufficient evidence to bring this case. Prosecutors have to be given that right. You have a right to a speedy trial. You have a right to be charged quickly. Once that happens and the evidence sort of falls apart, a witness falls apart, some sort of DNA testing comes back, inconclusive, you drop the charges, and then, oh my gosh, you found the X, you found this extra bullet, you found this new forensic test, and your case is now alive. Prosecutors have to be given that, but that's why Alec Baldwin wants to go so quickly. This is not, we're seeing, we have Trump on the one hand who's saying, I want the trial to go as slowly as possible because that's in my best interest, right, for the election and everything else. Alec Baldwin says it's in my best interest to get this thing over with as quickly as possible.
He wants this behind him.
And he wants it behind him desperately.
Also, the weapons expert who was on the set is being charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Right. Hannah Reed Gutierrez.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So, probably, just guessing, I would assume Alec Baldwin's going to come out on top in this.
Look, I've
barring some sort of shocking new evidence we don't know about, but I can't imagine what that would be at this point.
It's a weird thing. So I like to give a lot of deference to prosecutors, but this always has seemed like such an overreach, right? He is an actor. He was handed a gun. He was informed by a professional that the gun was not loaded with a real bullet. He turns and fires. People have said, well, you have to check the chamber, even if I think it was Matt Damon came out and says he always checks the chamber. But apparently what would be inside the chamber of this type of gun, a blank would look no different to an uneducated eye like Alec Baldwin's. A blank would look exactly the same as a bullet. I don't know exactly what he was supposed to do. Now, there's some greater allegations that he didn't, as the producer, he didn't keep a tight leash on the safety on the film set. But he's a producer in name only. He's not actually.
A lot of people don't understand that. You look at the Oscar nominations just came out. Best Picture, the producers who wins the Oscars. Look at all the names in all those Best Pictures. A lot of those people didn't do anything.
Right. A lot of people do, right? Margot Robbie clearly produced Barbie, soup to nuts, but there's also a lot of EPs on there who are just investors. That's one of the things you buy is an EP.
You throw some money in and you win an award.
I'm going to give you $15 million to make your movie, or maybe in Barbie's case, $50 million to make your movie. I'm got an EP credit. I don't do anything. I don't look at anything. I have no cut. I have no say over the cuts.
Right.
But I want my EP credit. That doesn't mean that I'm responsible for the guns.
Look at so many TV shows that have been on for a very long time. Right. And after like season 5, 6, 7, 8, you start seeing the star listed as an executive producer because they're suddenly producing the show.
Right.
No, they negotiated that in a contract because they want the title.
That's right. Well, and also there's money to come with that, right? When you get an EP credit, you're automatically entitled to certain additional monies, and that seems to be the case here. But I keep going back to the idea that actors are somehow knowledgeable enough to know whether a gun is loaded or not. I mean, can you imagine if...
And loaded with a live bullet or a blank.
Right.
When the person who you hired to tell you that is like, yeah, it's good.
Right. And so she's being prosecuted, and the armorer is, and I think that's, based on the evidence that we've seen, seems to be a legitimate charge, but there seems to be this real bone to pick by the DA. Alec Baldwin is perceived to have not been completely honest at the beginning. He said he didn't pull the trigger. Turns out he probably did pull the trigger. He says, fog of war. Look, he'll say, I really don't think I did, but if I did, I certainly didn't mean to. I don't recall that, fog of war kind of stuff. But I think the DA was put off by that, was put off by his sort of Hollywood elitism. Remember, he's calling these impromptu press conferences and bad-mouthing
I get it can be very off-putting to people, but you don't go on trial for being a nice person or not.
Right.
And I'm with you.
So speaking of Barbie, let's finish up with Whoopi Goldberg. So yesterday the noms come out, or on Tuesday the noms come out, and Margot Robbie is snubbed. Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, is snubbed. There's a whole lot about how the patriarchy has slammed back in a movie making fun of the patriarchy.
Because the movie was nominated for Best Picture, Ryan Gosling is nominated, so they're like, of course, the guy gets the nomination.
Yes.
So, but Whoopi, and a lot of people, particularly women in Hollywood, have sided with Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig. But this is what Whoopi had to say about it.
No, everybody doesn't win. Yeah. Everybody doesn't win. Some people don't get. Listen,
you know about the snubs.
Well, but they're not snubs, and that's what I want to sort of point out. And it's not the elites; it's the entire family of the Academy Awards who vote for Best Picture nominations. Okay, we all vote for Best Picture. Everybody. So there are 7 to 10 nominations that happen, and you don't get everything that you want to get.
So, for the record, also Whoopi Goldberg is one of those voters. We know she's not voting for Barbie, clearly.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets a prize.
Not everybody gets a prize. It's easy to say when you're Whoopi and you already have the prize.
Yeah, she won the Oscar for Ghost back in 1990. But I get her point that, it's just because you didn't get nominated or you don't win, it doesn't mean you're snubbed. You just didn't win. Not every, it's the whole participation trophy kind of thing. Not everybody gets an Oscar.
How'd you feel about Barbie?
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
I think what people's point is, the weird thing about it is, had they not nominated Ryan Gosling, it wouldn't seem like as big of a deal. But when it's a whole movie about Ken trying to be the patriarchy, taking over and subjugating women, and then you nominate him and not the women. Although, on the flip side, all the Barbie fans upset, America Ferrera is nominated, particularly for her speech about how hard it is to be a woman. That's what got her the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
They're ignoring her.
And Margot Robbie did get nominated as the producer for Barbie because it was nominated for Best Picture, although it's
not going to win.
It's the odds. I saw the odds are
it's like definitely not going to win.
80 to 1 or something.
Right. I don't know. The thing is, whatever Whoopi says doesn't matter. People who are mad about this are going to be mad about this.
That's right.
And they will always be mad about this. Oscar so male.
All right, everybody. Thanks very much. We'll see you tomorrow on the TMZ Pod.